his father before him, so did my father. So it's kind of like, is there really a benchmark to say, if it doesn't go as far back as this date, then you're not FBA.
Yeah, like I said, if you can, here's the thing: if you can trace one parent back, to the plantations in America or to the 1870 census.
Before I start, I'm going to go ahead and define some terms. Now, Tariq uses foundational Black American. I use Black American. So at times you're going to hear me use these words interchangeably. The reason why I use Black American is because we are Black Americans, and typically whenever somebody is addressing us, they typically say the black. Also, we can be known as freedmen as well. But now let me get into the question at hand. Half black or half FBA. So just as Tariq said, the way you can be half FBA is you have to have at least one parent that is full foundational Black American. Thus, if you have one parent that is full foundational Black American, you are FBA. You are half FBA. Now, me, I have both parents are foundational or Black Americans, so I'm full. If you have a half FBA parent and a non-FBA parent, you're not FBA. For me, I'm going to keep it cut and dry. You are not FBA. If you have two half FBA parents, then I'll give it to you and you can claim half FBA. But outside of that, that's it. Because we have too much confusion going on in Black society. Even when it comes to biracials, you see a lot of Black people typically claim biracials, the half breeds. We even have the quarter breeds, and we have the 10% breeds. The half breeds, I barely even accept the half breeds, but for as the quarter breeds, back then we used to call these breeds yellow bone or red bones. I call the 10% breeds these new breeds that have been sprouting up all over the place because a lot of Black people have decided to continue to just mate out and end up with these. I call them light brights. The 10% breeds, those are light brights because if you look at their features, they're damn near, they got white skin with black features. And why black features? Because those little black genes, it's a small group of them left and they're making their last stand. So when you see them, they usually have exaggerated black genes, either have overly big lips or some exaggeration on the lips, the body, the ass, whatnot, to kind of exude the black feature part on their body or about them. But like I said, if whoever started the genetic annihilation of your black genes and got you all the way up to this 10% breed, I say, damn, you might as well just go ahead and finish the process because they managed to get you that far. So you might as well complete the process and annihilate the rest of it, and so you can be white because that was their original goal, but they couldn't attain it, so they were making sure their offsprings would eventually obtain it. So you might as well finish up the process for them. Anyway, on to this whole biracial slash FBA, half FBA. Tariq had a broadcast, and it was along the lines of individuals having dual allegiances. Now, back in like 2016, 2015, I used to call this universal for those mixed black individuals. I would call them universal because they were confused. They were neither black or neither what other racial group that their parent decided to mix out with. So they were confused. They didn't know which side. So they usually go with the universal type side by choosing both sides, saying all lives matter. And typically when they do this, they're not doing this because they want both sides. They usually, when you see it, they'll usually always go with the non-black side, and then whenever they experience some racism or some discrimination against them, when they're in either areas that not their local area in which they grew up with, so these individuals know that you're biracial, or when they're not around their family, then they're seen as the black. So then they typically then want to say, oh, black people, come help me, come to my aid. Yeah, I know I've been speaking bad about you and all this other stuff because I don't really want your side, but now something's happened to me that is involved with my other side, and they don't realize that I am also still them. So you'll typically see that. With that, you never see white people claim biracial children. You never see them say, oh, this child is white. No, they say they're biracial. Even with white people, when white people are talking to other white people, they're like, nah, you're not our white. You're our buffer class white. You're not specifically our white. Even with Asians, it was an Asian woman on a podcast who is half Asian. She's white and Asian. She couldn't get an Asian husband because Asian men saw her and said she was a half Asian, so they didn't really want to get with her or marry her or something like that. And so her whole thing was she then would get with black men. And she said to the person who was kind of interviewing her, she said, if a full-blooded Asian man were to say he would want to marry you, would you go for the offer? And she said she would jump at the offer to get with a full Asian man to marry her. But what I'm just trying to say is that when you have an individual with dual allegiance, you can't trust them. You can't allow them to lead the conversation. You can't allow them to speak for the group, for the whole. You can give advice, you can give little tidbits, little pointers, but you can't speak for the whole, and you can't put yourself in the forefront and say you're the lead of us, because you are not fully us. That goes for foundational, and that goes for those biracials. For those ones that want to identify as being black. Because I think about it, Tariq had a broadcast, was talking about the mafia, and he was saying how the Italians would only have full-blooded people or Italians that would be able to be the leads or the bosses of the mafia. And the one time they decided to let somebody who wasn't full-blooded, who was a half, become a boss or a lead, the mafia ended up crumbling. after that. So black people, we typically have this thing where we're always accepting all these randos. And I'm glad that now we are deciding to kind of separate ourselves, even though it's through legacy, but we're deciding to separate ourselves from the rest so that we're not mixed in with these groups who decide to camouflage under our identity because because they did something negative. My last words is I hope it continues. I hope we continue to separate ourselves because back in the past, when we had our own black towns, black neighborhoods, and whatnot, we were doing great. And I feel like the black people back then, the only thing they just didn't take in account for is that all these groups, or back then just white people, would be wanting to destroy the greatness of what we create. So we should always think to build a protection system that is really willing to fight to defend what we have created. Anyways, until next time, peace.